Welcome to Resolve the Unsolved Forum by Panacea eBiz Consulting Group. This is going to be our 30th free webinar. It has been quite some time we have been covering different subjects related to businesses in the last few months. During this time of COVID, as we are discussing, a lot of transition is happening right now also within organizations, both small and big. And for any business to succeed and grow, we can't debate or avoid that we need capable and skilled manpower, which is very important. Hence, focusing on that, I was talking to Arindam early this week, and he suggested we can have a topic on sourcing skilled manpower during these unprecedented times. And manpower sourcing is a very important area on which both me, Mr. Goel, others within the organization have been working with different companies and trying to work, I won't say round the clock, on a consistent basis to improve the identification or the sourcing and onboarding. So it's not about only getting a resume, making a random idea about whether the person fits into the job or not, but the approach has to be very scientific. When we are going to dedicate a huge amount of resources, which includes not only money, time, effort, and people who will be working on client accounts, it's very important and imperative that we spend quality time and use appropriate method to identify the right manpower. And more so today, a lot of interactions are happening as we are interacting with each other over the web. A lot of interviews are happening over the web. Resumes have been exchanged, people are interacted, interviews are taken over the web. So that is the main reason we have also used the word called unprecedented time. And we have with us, as Mr. Goel mentioned, Mr. Arindam Lahiri. Arindam, welcome to the session. Arindam is currently the Chief Executive Officer, Automotive Skills Development Council, ASTC. He's a passionate professional with career spanning over 29 years. The initial 10 years was spent in manufacturing sector, followed by 19 years of experience across all domains of education and training. That is where I happened to meet him. He started his career with Maruti Udyog, received global exposure at Honeywell Incorporated USA, had an entrepreneurial stint as director and co-founder of Career Launcher India, now which is called CL Educate. His last assignment was with Education Division of HT Media Limited. At present, he serves as a member, DGT Apex Committee, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India, governing board member at Symbiosis Skills and Professional University, Pune member, Faculty Development Committee, Society for Automotive Engineers, SAE, India, member, Aspire, Sub-Board Education, Training and Skill Development at International Center for Automotive, that is ICAT, Haryana. He has a rich experience in terms of understanding the perspective from across the industry sector. So I'm sure that we will be looking into and trying to understand his perspective. Today with us, we have Mr. Ravinder Goel. Hello, Mr. Goel. Welcome to the session.
Hello.
Mr. Goel has been there with us throughout and has been instrumental in setting up these operations, and we have been jointly trying to address both the industry across North India, large and small, for the last couple of months. And webinars have been a key area on we are focusing on too. Mr. Goel has just started, I won't say just started, but is a promoter for Panacea eBiz Consulting Group. He has been into vocational skilling for almost 27 plus years. And he has contributed to the skilling ecosystem, which is very, very inspiring, in fact, and has touched the lives of more than 2 lakh students. He had also managed a channel network of 600 plus partners and associate centers across India. During this period, he has evolved training methodologies, which was well appreciated and brought the most coveted National Golden Peak of Innovative Product Services Award in 2002. Now, to start off with, we will go into a discussion mode. People can raise their queries or questions in the chat box. At an appropriate time, we can answer them during the session or at the end of it. Please feel free to put in your queries in the chat box. To start off with, Arindam, I would request you to open this session up without getting into any specific questions to start off with. Why do you feel it's very, very important and imperative to understand how to source the right kind of skilled manpower? Arindam, please.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you for the generous introduction. And I'm actually very happy to be part of this group. I think it's a wonderful initiative you and Mr. Goyal have undertaken here in terms of trying to address the common concerns of businesses around this country. We started becoming an entrepreneur at a stage in life when it wasn't called a startup or an entrepreneurship or no such fancy terms. We used to be looked down upon by family and others as to why after all of our education, so-called premium education, we want to become involved in business. But thankfully, this country has changed, and every other day you kind of keep hearing you building new unicorns in this country, valuation of various startups are mind-boggling at times.
Yes.
And a lot of different ideas, different initiatives. So some are successful, some are not so successful. But thankfully, it is not like that there are only a few 20, 30 families in India which were earlier known as the industrialists in the license Raj era, who would do everything from needles to missiles, let's say.
Very true.
And also, government was probably the biggest industrialist, trying to run right from hotels to everything else in this country. So, given this great change in the landscape, which has happened, most importantly, I would say, over the past 2 decades in India, it is a wonderful opportunity for youngsters, especially younger generation, to take advantage of that and move forward. And the whole concept of creating something, and I'm sure Mr. Goyal would agree with me on that when you're creating something, right from scratch, you may end up getting money for doing that or whatever, but I think the bigger kick that an entrepreneur gets out of it is the joy of creation and the joy of touching so many different lives that you can actually. And here, I think, therefore, I see this whole puzzle more from a human resource perspective rather than financial resource perspective. I'm sure there are others in the panel who would like to see it as all being, driven by money. While that's true, but money alone can't do anything if you don't have people. And people, even without money, I have seen working very dedicatedly if they have signed up for a passion. I remember in our early days at Career Launcher, many of us at that point in time used to be like part-timer, and we used to run it without a single penny, taking a single penny from the business, because we thought, let's try to see if we can make something out of this. So that was the passion. So in today's context, I think it is very important that, if I look back at our generation, early 90s when we started working, the key difference that I see today is the speed at which the technology is changing, and the environment is changing. So nothing is changing slowly, which used to be. Now looking back, it obviously looks very, very slow. So in today's context, there is this whole thing of the industry changing very, very fast, and the industry actually is impacting the lives of people very, very fast. Now here, therefore, the need to gain skills and having skilled manpower is absolutely critical. A lot of people think people's skills are very important only in case of service business. But if I have a manufacturing kind of a business, I probably don't need to focus much on skills. But I come primarily from a very manufacturing background. And we have these, wonderful term that it's a technical term, but let me not getting into technical stuff. Let me explain it very simply. We call it OEE, which is overall equipment efficiency, which means that you invest, let's say, a few crores of rupees in buying a very fancy machine. Now, if you do not get a skilled manpower to handle that, worst case situation, the machine goes for a toss and all your investment goes for a six, which you would usually guard against because, of course, you are very concerned about the money that you have spent on buying the machine.
Right.
But where I see most entrepreneurs lack their focus is that they're not looking at the efficiency that the machine can actually deliver. I come from automotive industry, and let me give you one example. A lot of people, buy cars in India on the premise of fuel efficiency, for instance. I'm pretty sure. Maruti has had this famous ad, "Kitna deti hai," kind of stuff. So people are bothered about fuel efficiency of the car. But amazingly, after they've bought the car with all the research done on fuel efficiency, when they drive those cars on the road, they completely forget about fuel efficiency. Because the design fuel efficiency of most cars will come if they are loaded properly, that is, enough people are sitting inside the car, it's not overloaded, it's not absolutely empty. Even if it is empty, it's okay, but it is definitely not overloaded. You don't pack people and stuff and drive the car. Second, you shouldn't speed the car. You need to run it at an optimum speed. Usually a speed between 40 to 60 kilometers an hour is where you get the best efficiencies. And you should not, brake very hard. You should not accelerate too fast. But all of these, when you look at the road, all of these goes for a toss because as soon as the red light turns green, everybody is keen to kind of push the pedal hard and accelerate. I sometimes wonder what happens to the fuel efficiency research that you've invested your time on. So this is a similar thing that I want to explain in terms of people. You've bought with a lot of research about what the efficiency of the machine is, what output it can give, what can it do to my product. But when it comes to people, you say, "Acha na, ye aadmi jo hai, meko 10,000 rupees kam mein mil raha hai. So let me go for it." But you don't realize that you are actually compromising on your return on investment because you've got the wrong person on that job. So getting a proper, skilled, trained, manpower, certified manpower is very, very critical for any kind of business. I did not go into the service sector primarily, because I think a lot of people still understand a little bit of this in the service sector, but I may be wrong.
No, you're right. Absolutely right. And while working with various organizations, like you explained, Arindam, organizations after organizations, barring few, the perception is very similar. The perception during recruitment is very similar. Things have changed. Technology has taken on the lead nowadays on recruitment. In fact, Mr. Goyal is also doing a major, taken a major initiative in that space. I would request him if he wants to share, he can share that. Uh, as Arindam mentioned about it, it's very critical that when I'm running a business, small or big, I have to have not expensive manpower, but does my manpower have the required capabilities for which I'm going to utilize him or her? Or am I compromising on that? We'll come into specifics of that. At this juncture, Mr. Goyal, it's always quite interesting for me to talk to you because you play always two hats. One as an entrepreneur that does not go out, and at the same time, you're also helping organizations recruit skilled manpower, and at the same time, the new initiatives which have been worked upon on manpower identification, shortlisting, and putting it up. So, how would you put it across from your past experience about why is it important to know and understand how to source appropriate manpower? Please, Mr. Goli.
Thank you, Sandeep. You see, when we were working in the education side of it, where we have trained more than 2 lakh students, my experience with the companies who were recruiting, you see, one thing, the recruitment in India so far is basically always been done in a crisis mode. So most of the time, recruiters do not have choice to recruit the people as per the fixed parameters or as per the production required or the output required by them. So the foremost thing I've seen that people do not plan in advance what kind of people they are looking at, what kind of qualification they are looking at, what kind of role they are going to expect from them, what kind of output they are going to expect from them. Second, the problem what we see or what I have seen personally, the recruiters basically it is like always at an arm length from the company's sales team or the operation team. HR job is not, though it's one of the most key function of any organization to be successful, but they are always at the last ladder. They don't get that much of priority and they are not part of the discussions. Now, when such thing happens, the role or the job skills or the job functions, like the portal we are running and the kind of interaction we had with recruiters, even many of the recruiters do not have a clear demarcation of the job skills, job functions, qualifications, everything clearly written to them. So actually, I must say that the top management, first of all and foremost, they must have a vision, a statement for the HR team as well. They must define what all areas we are working on, what kind of qualification we are looking at, what kind of output we are looking at from them. The second aspect is like as Mr. Anandam said that the machine you bought worth crores of rupees and you negotiate for 10,000 rupees for a person and the machine goes for a toss. That is what exactly is happening. But sometimes what happens that like because we come from the training background, there is a scope that if you want to hire at a lesser cost, so do you have the adequate training facilities? Do you have that much of time to train the people on the machines you have bought? Do you have a set performa where succession planning is also done? Like if the trained guy leaves, probably let's say if something untoward happened to that guy, do you have somebody else to manage that? So you see, it is something like the way we manage our Excel sheets for the sales targets or the revenues or the profit and loss. We do not have that sheet in the companies for people.
Right. Right. See, this is a important perspective which you shared. The priority is lacking. The priority is lacking. Whereas HR, in fact, should work shoulder to shoulder with the senior management or the management of an organization in terms of planning and sourcing manpower. Now, let's get into something specific onto it. Coming to Arindam, since you are with very specific bodies involved in helping out skilling and helping couple of organizations also in terms of taking a specific direction into it. I would just like to put a straight question. Uh, People have asked it. I'm putting it straight to you. Why should one insist on a skill certification while hiring? Please, Arindam.
Okay, thanks. I was not able to unmute.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just before I get into that specific question, I would also want to pick up one point that Mr. Goyal specifically spoke about. That even if you're not getting a trained manpower, you must have some kind of a training plan that you can do inside your organization. Now, there again, I think one must remember about this whole training thing. Especially like in manufacturing, what happens is that you've got very specific equipments, and these equipments are very costly.
Yes.
Now, it is impossible for you to kind of invest in that for training purposes.
Right.
So it is very critical to find out as to how exactly can you use, let's say, technology in today's context,
Right.
or real training facilities that sometimes the manufacturers provide in their facilities. So when you are negotiating a deal for buying a machine, are you also locking in some amount of training? Because what happens is that while you are buying these machines worth crores, sometimes you want to knock off saying, oh, you know what, you give me some more discount because I don't really need the training. So these are real issues that happens while you are making your decisions. And I would suggest that entrepreneurs need to essentially focus on the value rather than the cost of what they're trying to do. Now, coming to your specific question about why should somebody insist on, skill certification, essentially, is purely from a perspective. I think we know where we are in terms of our economic growth as a country, because we decided not to give any value to skills training as well as the skill certification. So even if I were to hire a pantry boy, I will say, "Acha, you have a graduate certificate, so you can come." Because I can get a graduate for cheap also. So
Yes.
why not employ a graduate pantry boy? Now, is he qualified or is he skilled enough to become a pantry boy? So I mean, it's as simple as that. Sometimes, in our offices, we don't even bother about this because, it's a pantry boy. It doesn't matter to me.
True.
But that whole pantry boy can actually, let's say you have some very important clients at your office. Of course, this is a pandemic situation and you will have mostly virtual, but in a general sense, you will have those kind of visits, for instance.
Yes.
And this guy comes over and is serving something to your clients and does something awkward. Just imagine what impact does it have to your business. You might have thought that, how does pantry boy skills matter to me? I'm running a big business. I'm bothered. I mean, this guy doesn't make a difference, because everybody who is connected to your business, right from the security guard, the driver, the pantry boy, and up till your managers, general managers, everyone, are they skilled enough to get into that job.
Very true.
The second one, I have taken an example at a very, very low level in terms of hierarchy of job roles. Second level, let me tell you that I have got this fantastic sales guy, who's beating his sales target month after month after month. And I'm so happy with him, and I make him the sales head, the general manager sales, or, vice president sales, or whatever it is. Now, he is not skilled to become a manager or a supervisor. And that's when the horror story starts. The guy is unable to manage his team, your sales team's performance goes down. And in the process of, hurrying through this process of getting him into a higher position because you want to reward him,
yes,
you've actually lost a good salesman. Okay. And if you wanted to reward him, you should have rewarded him by sending him to a good management school to get trained for a year, become an effective manager, prove himself that he can become a manager, then bring him on board and make him a manager. You will have made a successful transition of this guy from being a salesperson to a sales manager. I'm just taking again a random example of one skill area, but this is where the skill certification is very important. And the way we see the certificate is because we've kind of messed up with this whole certification business in India, because everyone seems to be a graduate, everyone seems to be a postgraduate, mushrooming of higher education institutes without the necessary quality frameworks, checks and balances in the system. And since those outputs are always suscept, what happens is that the industry starts feeling that every certificate is suscept. So I don't want to insist on that certification. So this compounds the whole problem. A, you have got a bad certification, and B, the industry doesn't require a certification, so people think that, oh, I can do it without the certification also. So why do I need to get trained and prove myself that I'm skilled enough?
Very true.
I can get a job. Very true. So I think this loop has to be broken. This chain needs to be broken.
Very true. No, you're right, Arindam. With organizations, we have seen within the country, as you took a right example of a salesperson to be rewarded becomes a manager by choice of the management, and he or she creates a mess. And he still focuses on his sales capabilities, not people management or development capabilities, which are there. And when we used to compare multinationals which have operations in India as well as other part of Europe and US, there's to be always a discussion just out of context. Indian CEOs at the top level are also, without taking any, should not take it personally, are at the top level only sales guys. They are not performing as CEOs, because CEOs have multiple other roles to play other than sales.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It starts right from the top. I mean, people in the board, for instance, there is this, I think, loan initiative in India called Institute of Directors, which talks about training directors on board. I mean, most people become directors just like that. They have no idea about what they have signed up for.
Yes. And there are opportunities where you can actually certify a person. Yes. Right. So it is very, very important. Mr. Koel, coming back to you on the same context, because there are one or two projects which you are also anchoring right now, and you have also experienced while interacting with the companies that they are not prepared. So, and you have trained lakhs of students on skilling. So, specifically, is skill certification very, very important? And if it is so, why?
I'll start from what Anindam has said, that when companies do not follow the certification path, student will definitely think of, why should I invest my money for a certification?
Yes.
I'm just sharing another example on this context. Way back from early 2000, when the BPO industry was flourishing in India.
Yeah.
So the students who used to get into voice non-technical seat, so
Mm-hmm.
you get 8 to 10,000 rupees salary, and the technical BPO guys they used to get 20 to 24,000 rupees.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, we had lot of students who were working on non-technical positions. They used to come specifically for a certificate which their company
Mm-hmm.
was looking for, or probably the certification they felt out after getting the certification. We will be absorbed in the technical side, and our salary for the same number of hours will be multiplied 3 times. Why I have given this example? Because today we have a lot of students from our online academy. They have joined this webinar.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sharing an example for them. Now,
Right.
the certification matters for the company or for the student. Now,
Mm-hmm.
basically, if we defocus from the company side,
Mm-hmm.
probably because it is the candidate who is looking for a career. The
Right.
company, there is a requirement of the company, fine, but the foremost thing is that what a student or candidate is looking for. Most of the students they feel happy by after getting their graduation or PG post graduation degree programs, and they forget the moment they are certified, they have the degree in their hands. They have joined the queue of millions of students who are already there certified equally. Now,
Okay.
the foremost, like in my career, I've seen the people who, like, there were people who wanted to go to, let's say, Singapore, they wanted to go to US or Europe. So they used to study the companies, what kind of certification they are looking for. And they used to prepare for those certifications, they used to qualify, and then they used to apply.
Right.
What my message to the students is that do forget about what companies are looking or not. But if you're looking for a specific job, right from the college last year or maybe much before that, start preparing for that and get adequate training and get certified. Let's say if we talk about the automobile sector, if you want to get into the workshop, or if you want to become an automobile engineer, or if you want to go for a specific skill set, so let's say you and so let's say 100 or 200 people applies, and if you are among very few people who are certified on the skill set, your resume will automatically be highlighted whether company has asked for that or not. So let's defocus from the company side, and probably I'll request all sector skill councils, like I had a great interaction with all of them. So we cannot really force a HR person to recruit only certified candidates, because their requirement is immediate, and whatever fit candidate they will find, they will recruit whether they are certified or not.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Arvindam will agree with me. The companies on board with automobile sector skill councils, they also must not be following the certification guidelines properly. They must be hiring people without the certification even. So it
Mm-hmm.
is, I probably will say, the students, the people who are looking for a job,
Mm-hmm.
they must identify and categorize themselves that, yeah, this is what I want to become, and they must look for the certifications aligned to that job role, so that when they apply, they fall under a different specific category of the right fit candidate, not a part of the queue or not a part of the crowd.
Okay. So you are insisting that a person should look into his or her right fitment and prepare for that. Now, keeping the same context, Charindam, since Mr. Goyal referred to the auto sector and you are critically involved into it, during this unprecedented time, sourcing, because the auto sector has a huge operation from logistics to operations to stores to outlets, n number of things which are there, if I'm right, okay, which is there. So, how is it dealing with this scenario at present? If I'm taking the current scenario, and obviously operations are opening up for them, and obviously they have to recruit and train as new products and new vehicles are coming onto the roads, new structures are coming up. Yes, please.
Yeah. So absolutely. The good part about I mean, of course, just to corroborate Mr. Goyal's point before I specifically come to this, he spoke about that automotive sector employers are also not insistent on skill certification, and that's
Right.
true. because they need manpower when they need it, and they can't keep waiting for certified manpower to reach. So I think our objective is to have more and more such people certified,
Okay.
more and more people opting for certification. Just take 1 minute on this. One of the great examples in this country has been the IT industry, the
Okay.
ITES industry.
Yes.
And the greatest advantage of the ITES industry has been that the industry has been very strictly following a certification regime. That if I am hiring a software guy, these are the 3 certificates that you must have, even before you apply for the job. And
Right.
then I'll test you whether you know it or not. It's a different issue. But you must produce those certificates to get even shortlisted.
Right.
And I think that has made India a superpower in IT. I wish all the other industries actually followed it, because then in each and every industry, India could have been a global superpower.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's the difference between what is happening in IT and in other industries. Now, coming back to your point in terms of sourcing of candidates in the auto sector, and as you rightly said, auto sector is a very, very critical sector. As far as the manufacturing GDP in this country is concerned, 50% of that GDP is contributed by auto sector alone. So if you talk about anything in manufacturing, 1 out of 2 people are actually contributing to the auto sector in terms of value. Okay. So we have huge requirements, requirements right from research, design, manufacturing, all areas of manufacturing, various technologies, stores, etc., and right down to the dealers, sales, spare parts, servicing,
Okay.
and also, of course, a big requirement of drivers.
I see.
Even with all the talk about driverless cars and all that, I mean, we are quite some distance away. I think there will still be 1 full generation of drivers who will be there, assuming that the current speed with which things are moving, it moves at that speed or even slightly better speed. But we'll still need drivers. Okay. So yes, we need a lot of people, and the one of the things that I see, in pandemic, just to give you a context of the industry, before the pandemic set in, the auto industry was degrowing.
Okay.
There were a couple of issues. There were some things related to policy. Then there was this BS4 to BS6 standard emission standard switch. So a lot of people were deferring their purchases because they wanted to buy the car with the new emission standards, etc. So we had degrown over the previous 18 months. So the last 1 year that way has not been too bad, because if we had not degrown, the degrowth in 2020-21 would have been even worse. But we did not do that badly. The things have, once the operation started back in June, the auto industry has been the quickest to the recovery, because a lot of people started preferring personal vehicles. We've seen a tremendous boom in the second-hand market, the pre-owned cars market. So there's a lot of job opportunities that has opened up in that segment,
Right.
in terms of car valuations, selling, after-sale servicing, etc., etc.
In fact, second-hand vehicles have become expensive. In Delhi.
It will, because there's a very high need. I think more than 200% growth rates have been there in terms of the volume of purchases that are happening in the second-hand car market.
Okay. Okay.
So that is there, and then of course the current market. Tractors have seen a growth through the roof. I mean, 60 to 80% growth has happened in the tractors market, with all the migrant labor going back from the fields. A lot of landowners have necessarily had to rely on using tractors. So mechanization in the farm fields in India, while penetration was low, COVID has really helped that penetration to go a little higher up. But coming back to the skilled manpower story, one is, of course, that there was a huge flow of, just like any other industry probably, but more so even in manufacturing and automotive. Manufacturing is not a very, looked up to kind of a profile in India. If you are in manufacturing industry, you're not in a cool industry. You should be in computers, telecom, banking, the fancy industries as far as India is concerned. So anything to do with manufacturing, it's thought to be hard work, not so paying work, and so on and so forth. So typically we depend heavily on a lot of supply states like UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Orissa, from where labor would typically come into the workforce. And during the pandemic, obviously there was a reverse migration. So, so when the companies started, and since the volume started ramping up, there was a huge challenge of manpower. So we kind of connected to all our old certified candidates, and we were trying to figure out if they're still looking for jobs, etc. You'll be happy to know, and I want to talk a little bit on this scheme also, the apprenticeship model. In the last 12 months, not even 12 months, actually from June onwards, so actually 9 months, we at ASDC have had about in excess of 30,000 apprenticeship contracts in 9 months, where absolutely fresh manpower has gone into the workforce as an apprentice for 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year, as the case may be. And these manpower, what I'm very happy about is that since this apprenticeship model is taking off now, they are actually going to get trained very well, because they are going to get trained in a real environment, real work environment. And these are the certified guys then who can be further hired. The other piece is, of course, in the Indian context, one of the surveys showed that almost about 70% of the apprentices are retained by their existing employers. So they transition them from apprentice to an employer. About 7 out of 10 people, and which is a great number, I would say, in terms of doing it. So to the youngsters all around, I think what you must know is that now apprenticeship is mandatory on each and every industry. Any industrial organization which has 30 or more employees, contract plus full-time employees, they are required to have, by law, at least 2.5% apprentices. And the whole apprenticeship program has been very simplified. There are financial incentives for organizations. So if there are business owners in this panel, I would request them to use this apprenticeship model as a very exciting model to be part of, which can allow you to actually have about up to 15% of your manpower recruited as an apprentice. And it is a win-win-win situation for everyone, because for the individual, when I complete certain education program and I am looking for a job, most of the time I get returned by the employers saying, you don't really have an experience. Now, apprenticeship provides you with that real experience, and it is formalized. You get a certificate for that. It's a government certificate that you get. That's number one. Number two, for the organizations, they're usually very wary of getting trainees, because they're not productive right from day one, and they have to pay their compliances, PAF, ESI, this, that, which is all exempted in case of an apprentice. And not only that, for every apprentice the business hires, the government actually pays back up to 1,500 rupees per month per person back to the business. So their cost of that manpower is partially taken care of. And they can even hire at lower than a minimum wage also for the apprenticeship period, because apprenticeship minimum stipends are much lower than in many states what the minimum wage rates are. So I think it has been made very flexible. At least in auto industry, we are seeing a great traction in terms of apprenticeship model. I believe that other manufacturing sectors like electronics, etc., are doing it. The retail sector, I know for sure, is doing very well in apprenticeship.
Yes, they
I
are.
think over the last 1 year, I think I understand that the Retail Sector Skill Council has done close to about 60,000 people in the last 1 year or 1.5 years.
Mhm.
So I see that these as great opportunity both from a candidate side as well as from the business side.
Right. Staying with this, I will just like to lead you into, since you mentioned about apprenticeship, the benefits, are there any specific agencies which can help identify skilled manpower?
Yeah, so I think all the various sector skill councils they have become the nodal point for apprenticeships. So they maintain the data of the certified apprentices, which
Okay.
can be looked at as we grow the apprenticeship numbers.
Okay.
And in terms of getting fresh apprentices,
Mhm.
there are at least I think close to about 30 organizations or probably more organizations right now who are accredited by the Ministry of Skill Development as third party aggregators who
Okay.
work with various academic institutions like ITIs, private ITIs, polytechnics, graduate colleges, etc.,
Okay.
from where they kind of source these apprentices and manage the apprenticeship program with the various businesses. So
Right.
depending on which sector are you operating,
Mhm.
one could get in touch with the concerned sector skill council to be able to find out
Right.
more nitty-gritties and details about it.
Right. At this point, Mr. Goyal, let me bring you in. We were talking about internships, which are very, very effective. We know about it. It gives opportunity for a candidate to work before getting confirmed, and the other benefits which are in them shared, which the organization can have. At the same time, while we are working on a new projects, which is going to help evaluate and assess manpower, right?
Right,
And we're not talking about only within the country, globally also.
right,
So it's very, very important. Like there is one is a skill assessment, a skill certification which is there. At the same time, sourcing of manpower, there is also an opportunity which has been created where the HR can not only look at the certificate, but can also utilize platforms which are available to evaluate candidates and test them, which
right.
is there. Now, I would like you to just put these two things in perspective in terms of sourcing manpower for industries.
Uh, Sandeep, basically what happens when, today, I was going through some of the statistics. So
Mhm.
today, online collection of resumes of the candidates has become very high. People have
Okay.
started opting various online companies
Mhm.
where they scout candidates. Now, there
Okay.
are a couple of unique problems which probably we have sorted out at eRecruit, our job pre-hiring assessment portal.
Mhm.
Foremost thing is that when you shortlist, let's say out of 100, you have shortlisted 5 people,
Right.
despite that you have done every assessment, every face-to-face interviews or telephonic interviews or video interviews, the candidate does not join on the date of joining. He simply does not turn up, or he says that I've joined the company.
Okay.
This one foremost problem we have resolved at eRecruit, where a recruiter at the time of calling them can see that the boy has applied to, let's say, 10 companies in past 15 days, and
Okay.
he has been issued an offer letter even. So you can probably find out the candidate's profile as interest level and how serious he is for the job.
Mhm.
Probably you can discuss well before in advance that as you have been shortlisted by 15 companies, are you willing to join to go further or not? So this is one of the major problem. And second,
True.
going back to Anindam, internship part, like today you see the two of the major qualifications, if you look at the chartered accountants and the doctors, the medical fraternity, they get their certifications only after doing internship of 3 years in chartered accountants and 1 year in the medical profession minimum. Now that's what is been discussed in the new education policy as well, which probably might be implemented for engineers. That instead of like 4 years degree, it will become 5 years, like the way it is for MBBS for doctors. Now that is what is required, like for any other sector skill or for probably any other graduate or postgraduate programs. One must have at least 3 months to 6 months or 1 year minimum internship, which is not frivolous in nature. Like in most of the engineering college, you have the industry project or internships or something like that. But because availability with the college or with the student is very limited, so those have been taken care by some certificates which are been, like you know how it has been managed. So what Anandam said is very much true. Like in Europe, when I visited there to have some discussion with the agencies, so there the first person has to work and enroll with the industry, and from there only he can apply for a certification. So it's like Monday to Friday he's working with the company, Saturday Sunday he's going for the skill assessment. So skill assessment bodies becomes an auditor basically. The kind of learning he is doing at the industry, whether those are aligned or how he is coping up, whether he's nearing to that or maybe orientation, whatever is missing from the industry side. So those points have been covered.
Right.
In total, if you look at the the body, the academia, the industry, and the students, basically all three stakeholders have to come together. I remember like unofficial, I'm just sharing unofficial, I'll not name anything. Uh, there was a discussion happening with the way back, I think it's around 2010. Probably Anandamji, if probably can attest the feeling, not the name and not the person. So I shared one point that boss, like you have CSR mandatory for the companies, like 2% right now probably is same 2% only. Why don't you make the employment of certified government certified skill certified students part of the CSR initiative, that whatever salaries you are going to give to these students will be considered a CSR initiative by which they will get the experience and your expenditure will also be accommodated in the CSR initiative. But the minister at that point of time, I'll not name the minister, but they said that a lot of homework is to be done. So we are not ready for that as of now. But as internship is picking up, probably I'll request Anandamji if we can probably vouch for this concept where CSR paid to the salaries paid to the freshers or the certified sector skill certified people, if it can be compensated adjusted in the CSR. So probably you'll find that companies will be very much willing to hire such people uh, because you see it is, yeah, I think Anandam is saying.
Just to
Please.
respond to your this particular point, just wanted to clarify that in today's CSR process, if you hire apprentice beyond the minimum level, which is 2.5%,
Okay.
but up to the 15%. So which means if you hire all 15% as your apprentice, then 12.5% apprentice's salary can be booked under CSR. So whatever is compliance, which is 2.5%, cannot be booked under CSR. But any number that you do over and above the minimum compliance, up to that operational level of 15%, is currently allowed that their stipends can be booked under CSR.
100% or it is a part of that?
100%. 100%.
Oh, that's great.
100% minus the 1,500 reimbursement that you will anyway get.
Okay.
So your net outflow, whatever is your cash net outflow towards these apprentices, they can be all claimed back under, booked under CSR.
So that's a great things
That
which
clarifies.
back in 2010.
Yeah.
You are saying it has happened, so that's a very great news for me as an individual.
Yes, yes, it is possible.
That's great.
And there are companies who are doing it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, back to Sandeep.
Fine. As we have been talking about it, we have one or two queries which has come across. Let's address them. And one is from Sanjeev. He says he do the panel think new education policy will impact the quality of manpower. Now, Sanjeev, if you're referring to the new education policy, it's a very quite wide one, if I'm right. Are you referring to what has been drafted out recently? You can unmute and speak out if you want, Sanjeev.
I'm just allowing them to unmute. Yeah,
Yes.
now he can unmute.
Sanjeev, if you can unmute and speak out what exactly you want to say.
Yeah, basically, I want to understand that now with the new education policy, there has been, talking about more into the technical qualification, not going through the pattern of 10 plus 2 plus 3,
Okay.
this thing. Whether that will be have impact because, we are more into the monotonous thing. Can it be clarified this? That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Arina, would you like to take it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's I think it's a very, very valid query at this point in time. Of course, the new education policy is a policy right now. It will have to go into implementation stage. And as you would know that education is a concurrent list subject. So states will have to now adopt a version of this national education policy. And based on that, they will have to issue notifications about how they are going to implement it in each state. So it is going to be slightly a game of patience because the national EV policy, for instance, in automobile, for instance, happened about 5 years back, and 2020 actually saw the states actually rolling out their own versions of state EV policies. Now also not all states have it. So I'm just giving a reference just to understand that sometimes these could take more time. But having said that, the policy itself, I think, is very forward-looking, and it allows for a lot of implementation opportunities where you can integrate the education and skills training, interchangeably, which is what has been practiced for a very long time in the Western world, especially the European markets.
Okay.
As Mr. Goyal was talking about. The other piece that I can let you know is that we are working very closely with the ministry in terms of drafting a national credit transfer policy, which means that if you do an accredited skills training program, you will, I'm not sure if most of you would be aware, but I'm pretty sure you can look up the Google and do a little more research to find out more. There is a framework in India called the National Skills Qualification Framework, or NSQF. So depending on which NSQF level course you are going to do, you're likely to get a credit balance in your account, in your credit account for academic credits, just the way the credit systems work. And that credit can be, used up for completing your graduation at a later date. So let's say at the end of class 12, you do a NSQF level 4 program for a short-term skill training. And let's say you get about 30 credits for that. Now, if your overall graduation degree would require 120 credits, you can exchange 30 credits of this in that, and you only would need to do the balance 90 credits for completing your graduation. So that can lead to faster graduation, provided you've already picked up certain skill certification. So not only would you want to get skill, but as I was talking in an earlier section during this discussion, that you need to get a skill certificate, an accredited skill certificate. Which is aligned to NSQF, and then that can give you certain benefits in the long run.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. Since we are already at 4 o'clock, while we are waiting, no, it was very important what today we discussed. Though we had just 1 hour as a framework, but it's very, very important for organizations to understand, even they are getting into recruitment of people, the importance they need to get or give to not only the HR, to the entire process of skilling, certification, training, again, skilling, reskilling, and ensuring that people have the right skill, right knowledge, right information for the job or the roles they are being assigned for. Because a person cannot come equipped with all kind of informations as they grow in an organization. Because every role, every part of it takes him or her into a different perspective. A lot of them don't come with people management skills. A lot of them don't come with management skills, as Arindam rightly pointed out. So people have to be educated, they have to be skilled, they have to be trained. Do we have anybody else? Okay. Before we close the session, Mr. Goel, anything which you would like to put across at this stage? Because there's a big project on which you are working on right now.
Probably you see, as Anandam said that everything is moving, and definitely we, as a India, as a country, we are almost 20% of the world population. So what can be achieved in smaller countries, probably it will take a lot of time to involve each and every stakeholder, and to make that happen is definitely a tough task. We have colleges or the schools, or I mean, and such large population is there, reaching out to everybody and changing even a course or changing the structure or putting up a new thought is
Right.
very challenging. But yes, the industries, as he rightly said, that IT industry, because I was a part of that vocational skilling, there was no infrastructure in schools, colleges way back in 90s. And it was all, the credit goes to the private training companies
Yes.
who have educated the people coming out from colleges or the engineering colleges and made the India IT superpower. But yes, he rightly said the industry have definitely taken a task that people who will be deployed will have some certification. So same kind of awareness probably can be achieved in other sectors. And I remember way back when 2008, these NSDC was formed. Uh, we were looking at in 2022 or 2020, the resource provider force.
Right.
uh, Working on set guidelines, and the participants, basically the main participant, the companies, they also have to come forward on the initiative, probably which I was not aware of. Thanks, Anandam, letting me know that yes, the internship, this part is can be accommodated in the CSR cost. So that's a great initiative done by the government, and this can benefit companies by hiring interns at a lesser price and train them and select them who are qualified. So probably head in the right direction, and hope that in times to come, the way we have become the IT superpower, we are going to have this super tag attached in different verticals as well.
True. And we don't have a choice. In fact, industry and across and sectors across, we have to follow and have a very, very, very disciplined approach in case we want to build up our capabilities, our own industries as entrepreneur. There cannot be a second choice, or there cannot be a second different route as such.
Right.
It was great to have everybody over here today. Thanks for joining in. Arindam, thanks for your sharing of a lot of information over this platform today and your time. It is good to have you with us. Thank you, Mr. Goyal. We should catch up next week with a new topic again. Till such time, see you all, everybody. Bye bye. Bye. See you.